All right, we're all set.
All right. Hi, everyone. I know this time we sent out the invitation to a bit broader of a group from our reps, as well as the presidents of each of the student governments sent it out to their students as well. So welcome to everyone else who might be joining us. This is our Harvard Graduate Council General Council meeting, which is every other Monday. And today we have the great privilege of having John Nguyen, our director of HUHS, come and give a state of affairs, how things are going right now at the school, and then also answer some questions that you guys have had. We sent out a form to our reps for some questions, but I think we only got one or two, so we'll have those posed at the beginning, and then people can just feel free to post in the chat or directly ask Dr. Nguyen any questions. But I'll let John take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Janthia. So I really appreciate this opportunity to provide a COVID-19 update to the Harvard Graduate Council. You know, our focus tonight is COVID-19, but I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention that in the midst of the pandemic, we also have had to address unprecedented mental health challenges for our students and indeed for our staff and faculty. These are such unusual times, and I think everyone's dealing with a lot of stressors right now. And we've also needed to consider the impact of social and political unrest around us. And as we begin Black History Month, and we also look toward next week's Lunar New Year, which is being celebrated by Asian Americans and Asians all over the world, and me, we must remember that as we respond to COVID, we really have to strive for an equitable approach that upholds Harvard's values of mutual respect. And with all of these things going on, HUHS continues to provide healthcare to thousands of patients, offering about 2,400 clinical visits per week to students, faculty, staff, spouses, retirees. So we've been busy, both remotely and in person. This is a good time to remind everyone that all active students have access to HUHS medical care and CAMS. We offer in-person services as well as remote visits to the extent permitted by law. All right, so let's talk about COVID. The Harvard response in the fall was very successful, thanks to all of our students, faculty, and staff who have worked so hard to be vigilant. There was no significant risk of disease transmission on campus, and the students who were on campus by and large did a fantastic job engaging in public health requirements, including high cadence viral testing. I know that student leaders have played a role in encouraging their fellow students to do their part in fighting this pandemic, and I want to express my gratitude to everyone who has helped to respond to this crisis. Thinking broadly, the United States has witnessed about 27 million cases of COVID-19 and almost 500,000 deaths. And that is just mind-boggling and numbing to think about. And we are witnessing some declines. Recently, you may have heard in the news that that there have been some dramatic reductions in infections nationally and in the state in the last couple of weeks. But I want to remind folks that we're not out of the woods yet. We have seen some variants of the coronavirus that have spread to the United States. The B.1.1.7 variant, which is commonly referred to as the UK variant, has appeared not only in the US, but in Massachusetts. And there is at least, 467 or 470 cases at this point in dozens of states. And then we have the variants that have arisen from South Africa and from Brazil. And what is concerning about these genetic variants is the fact that they seem to be more easily spread in the communities, particularly when folks are not completely adhering to public health guidelines. There's nothing to make us suspect that the virus itself travels in the air in a different way. It's still a coronavirus and it still travels on respiratory droplets. But if the virus gets inside someone's body, it is more likely to enter cells and to be able to cause disease. And at least so far, these variants are not causing more severe disease. They're just spreading faster. And so we need to be very careful about allowing this virus to continue spreading within our communities. Every time another person is infected, it is another opportunity for the virus to mutate even further, and it could become even more dangerous. So we just need to make sure that we slow that down. So as I mentioned before, we have been seeing reductions in the virus in Massachusetts, but we're still seeing significant numbers. So right now, our average daily count of infections looks like it did in late fall. And think back to late fall, we were not drawing our guard back then. We were still very concerned about how things were looking, and so we need to continue to be very careful. The situation at Harvard, we do a lot of testing. I don't know how many of you are actually physically in the area. Are there many of you in physically around campus right now? I see some hands going up. Yeah. So we have, and I imagine some of you are coming to campus to work in labs or other things. Among the people who are coming to campus, we have been doing a lot of viral testing, and 680 or more, I think the number has gone up a little bit, people have tested positive. But what we have found is that we've been able to keep those infections from spreading and turning into uncontrolled outbreaks. And certainly in some campuses across the country, there have been uncontrolled outbreaks. We have not seen that here. And that's because we have done very, very careful contact tracing, and we respond to every positive case very quickly, often much faster than local public health departments are able to do. So that means that we can let people know that they're infected so that they can take themselves out of circulation in the communities. But overall, our test positivity on campus has been under 1%. And in fact, right now it's probably around 0.2, 0.3%. So that's good. But as we move forward, I think it's just really important for us to remember that we are standing on a three-legged stool above a sort of a flood of COVID, and that three-legged stool is based upon masking, distancing, and hand washing. We need to do all three of those things, or else that stool is going to topple over, and then we're going to be in trouble. So please remember to do that. One other thing that I sometimes demonstrate to people when I'm with them in person is how far 6 feet really is. In fact, both my parents were school teachers, and this is a teacher stick, and sometimes I use this, in fact, to demonstrate, because I walk around campus with this in my pocket, because we all kind of forget how far 6 feet really is, right? So this is not 6 feet, okay? I'm going to keep pulling this apart. So this is also not 6 feet. This is just 4 feet, and my arm is 2 feet. So this is really how far you have to be away to be 6 feet from me, right? And in fact, when I am just talking to people and trying to keep my distance, it's real easy for me to actually drift closer to the folks that I'm talking to. So I really try to encourage folks to measure it out and remind yourself periodically what 6 feet really is. And 6 feet is not a magical number in the sense that there's this invisible wall at 6 feet. But I can tell you that respiratory droplets travel much more easily to your body if you are less than 6 feet away. And so that's why we say 6 feet. But if you can be 7 feet apart or 8 feet apart, that's even better. And so what I often do is think about 6 feet away and just put the chairs down. And then if I'm going to hang out with somebody, I know that I'm not going to drift towards them because I'm sitting in a chair and the chairs are at least 6 feet apart. But anyway, this is really important for us to remember, because masking and distancing are really critical. I talk routinely to my contact tracing team, and we are following all those infections that we identify. And what we have noticed is that when people get infected and we look at what their exposures have been, these infections are not happening because they are generally interacting on campus and things like that. They're generally infections that have occurred out in the community when people drop their guard. And we see a lot of infections that happen because of a meal, or grabbing coffee with someone, having drinks with someone. And so I would really want to stress the importance that if you are going to socialize with others, and please help spread this amongst your communities, socializing, we need to separate eating and drinking from social activities. I don't want our community members to not socialize with each other. This is so important for us as human beings to interact with each other. But let's put a pause on eating together, because that's where we're seeing a lot of infections happen. And of course, socialize in person, but still remember 6 foot as much as you can. Really do that. And I think we can really make a difference as we move forward with this pandemic, because it's not over. And right now, I know some members of our community are getting access to vaccine. And if you are working with patients and are COVID facing in a lab or something like that, and you've been vaccinated, please remember that getting vaccinated does not mean that you should stop doing all those things that I just mentioned. It's too soon for us to be thinking about doing that. We have to wait until a large proportion of our general community has been vaccinated, and we have seen evidence of a drastic reduction of the virus within our communities before we start thinking about changing our behaviors. So let's talk about the vaccines. Right now we have Pfizer vaccine and Moderna vaccine. They're available. We at Harvard are able to store and administer either one. And we are dependent upon the state, which is dependent upon the federal government to get vaccine. We cannot order it for ourselves. We can't make private orders and things like that. Every week we communicate with the state, and we tell them what we're capable of giving, how much we need. But the state has told us that they don't have as much as they want either. And so there's a real challenge right now for us to be able to get enough vaccine, but we are hopeful that as we move forward, some of those challenges will dissipate. But right now we are still working on finishing up those last few people who are in phase 1 of the vaccine distribution, which is basically healthcare providers, medical students who are seeing patients, dental students, dental faculty and staff, and of course, people who work at HUHS. So that's phase 1. And then, of course, phase 2 is begun here in Massachusetts, and that is people who are age 75 and older who are now eligible for vaccination. I know that many of you are not yet eligible for vaccination, but we will be following the Massachusetts vaccine distribution plan, and eventually we will get to it. And certainly if any of you have multiple medical conditions that are designated by the CDC as being high risk, please make sure that HUHS knows about it. I would assume that many of you have told your primary care providers at UHS about it, but please make sure that if you haven't already told us, that you do tell us, so that we're aware that you might qualify at a later point in phase 2. I think that I'll probably take questions at this point, and happy to describe things further if you need.
Yeah, thanks so much, John. I know we had one question from our HMS rep, Hugh. So if you wanted to ask you that first question.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for being here and talking to us today. I had a question that was brought up to me by some of my classmates about testing for COVID by Harvard. Right now, the HMS students are only allowed to drop off their tests and pick up tests at the NRB in the Longwood medical area. And that's been kind of a problem for some of my classmates who live much farther away from Longwood than they might otherwise live in a normal year. And it's been told to us that that's just the way that it is, and there's no way that we can pick up tests at any other Harvard location. And I was wondering what the thinking behind that was, and if there's any possibility for there to be a more open system for Harvard students to acquire COVID tests from any location run by the university.
Great question, Hugh. Thanks for asking that. So there's two pieces to it. One is dropping off, and the other is picking up. So dropping off can happen at any drop-off location that we have across campus. It'll all end up in the right place. So so if you have a kit and you happen to be near HUHS and you want to just go into our vestibule there, right outside our main entrance, there's a bin. You can drop it off there. But as far as picking up a kit, that is managed by individual schools, and so that's something that that you need to discuss with your school about how they manage the pickup of the kits. I will certainly discuss this with HMS leadership and let them know that the concern has been brought up, and see if there's any thoughts that they might be able to have with that.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Anyone have any additional questions? Oh, it looks like Abhinay has hands up.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I'm the chair of advocacy for the Harvard Graduate Council. I'm also a fourth-year medical student as well, but at UCLA. My question is just if you could clarify where things stand on community testing at this point. I know one of the things we've heard is, each school has its own sort of set of protocols as to who qualifies for testing and at what frequency. Can you give us just kind of an overview, especially for students who are in the Boston, Cambridge area, like what their accessibility is to testing on-demand testing, if at all?
So right now, testing for you're talking about like for graduate students who are in the area? Yes. Yep. So testing is right now limited to individuals who are on campus for some type of official business at least 4 hours a week. So if you have in-person classes that you need to attend, or I know that some of the medical students are having in-person learning, and if you work in a laboratory that brings you on campus, those are some examples of situations where you might need to be on campus for more than 4 hours a week. And for those individuals, you would be enrolled into a testing program. And generally speaking, students who are on campus but not living on campus would be testing twice a week. But for people who are not coming to campus at all for any official academic purpose, right now we are not offering that to our graduate students, but I know that this is something that is of great interest, and I will assure you that we're having lots of discussions about it, but there are many factors that come into play. Of course, I would love to have freely available testing for everyone in Cambridge and Boston. Really, I mean, from a public health perspective, and what we try to do is at least make sure people know that they can go to the Massachusetts Public Health Department website to identify local testing resources, and there are testing resources out there that are operated by the state, and there are also private ones. And so I would recommend looking into those options as well.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks for your time again. I guess I was curious. I know the government has 3 phases of vaccinations, or at least that's what I've read for the plan. And so the 3rd phase would be the general population without age or health conditions. Is Harvard considering or planning to make the vaccine available to the broad, really anyone affiliated with Harvard once we hit phase 3?
Yes, actually. So our plan, assuming that we're given enough doses to do so, our plan is to vaccinate anybody who has a Harvard ID, an active Harvard ID. And so that is what we have been setting up systems to be able to do eventually. Clearly, it's going to take some time for us to get to phase 3, because phase 2 is just beginning, and we're like at the first bullet of phase 2, and there's like 5 or 6 bullets within phase 2. So right now, the state has begun phase 2, bullet 1, which is people age 75 and older, as I mentioned. But there isn't actually enough vaccine yet to dispense that to all of the 75-year-olds this week, right? So so we have to work through that, and then after that will be 65-year-olds and people who have 2 or more qualifying medical conditions, and then after that will be certain subsets of the workforce that have jobs that put them at higher risk, and there's a specific list there. And then after that will be people who have one risk factor. So we got to work through all of that, and I don't think that we'll get to phase 3 for quite a while. But when we move to each phase of the distribution, our plan is that we would vaccinate members of the Harvard community who qualify in that point of the distribution plan, as long as we have the vaccine.
All right, Emily, we have the last question here.
Great, and thank you so much for being with us this evening. I realize this is an impossible question to fully answer, but if Massachusetts sticks to its current vaccine schedule and predictions and is able to complete vaccination by July, do you foresee any complications to resuming in-person study for the Harvard community in the fall? Or like if you were a betting man, what would your best guess be?
So, that's the $1 million question that we're all asking. I do believe that once we get, and this depends on vaccine uptake too. It depends on 2 things: how much vaccine we have, and how many people take us up on it, right? And then once we have a lot of people who have been vaccinated, we want to see evidence that the virus is declining within our community. So what we know is that after a lot of people have been vaccinated, we will continue to do testing because through that, we'll be able to have evidence that that there's much less virus in the community. And we'll be following not only the testing of our Harvard community, but also we will be following what's going on in the broader Cambridge and Boston area. As we see those numbers decline substantially, then we'll feel comfortable expanding further with regard to our in-person activities. And really that is the goal, is we want to get everyone back to as much of a normal life as possible with in-person education, because we know that that is most likely going to be the most effective way of delivering education. Now, of course, what we have found is that there are some online activities that have actually been better for us than trying to be in person. For example, if people are spread all over the place across campus and trying to get them to all come together for an in-person meeting, sometimes Zoom might be better for than that. But overall, I think that we really want people to be able to resume what we think of as normal academics, and it would be lovely to do that in the fall. I think that the fall will not be, even if we were bringing people back in the fall, it's not going to be like completely what we remember it being before. There will probably be stages.
Thank you so much. All right. And with that, I think we'll move forward with our agenda. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us. And I don't know if you have like a way that you prefer to be contacted, whether it be through email or some other way, but if you feel comfortable, feel free to share that in the chat, and maybe some of our reps can reach out to you. But other than that, we are going to move forward with other items on our agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, certainly you can reach out to HUHS or to me directly. I'm certainly in the campus directory, and I would just say that I appreciate your interest in staying up to date with all of these things, and you all play such an important role as student leaders. So please help spread the word about all the things that I've mentioned, and we'll get through this.
Yeah,
all right. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Have a good night.
All right. And with that, I've already sort of done roll call. So thank you guys for coming to the meeting. We are going to pass it off to Emily Mello from HKS to give us the Kennedy School tour. So Emily, have you been made co-hosts?
I haven't. It's going to be me and Nick Canella, but I can share my screen. I'm not even sure if I need to be a co-host. Share my screen, but give me 1 second. Let me just see. Okay.
Otherwise, Emily, I do have the file linked. Oh, perfect.
And I'm just going to go into presentation mode. All right. Are you seeing the presentation mode, or are you seeing the
presentation mode? Looks good.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Yeah. So we're giving you, I'm going to put tour in quotation marks, big quotation marks. Neither Nick nor I have ever actually studied physically on the Harvard Kennedy School campus, but we're excited to be giving you this introduction of sorts to the school today. Just so you know how we're going to go through this, we're going to provide some very brief background on this school, what programs we offer, a snapshot of our student body, a bit of the history, and about our research initiatives. And then we're going to shift over to focusing on student priorities at the school, especially how the HKS administration has responded to COVID thus far and current student government priorities, and then hopefully time for discussion. Before we go into that, I realize Nick and I have met with some of you before, but we don't know everybody personally. So just so you know who we are, I'm Emily. I'm a Harvard Graduate Council voting member from the Harvard Kennedy School. I'm a first-year Master of Public Policy student. Before this, I worked on the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign. And before that, I did a lot of advocacy and communications work in the global health space, especially with the UN. And I'm excited to work more with all of you. And I'll give the floor to Nick.
Sorry, I was having trouble finding the button there. But good evening, everyone. So I'm Nick Canella. I'm a mid-career Master in Public Administration candidate, and I'm also one of the alternate reps here for the Kennedy School, supporting Emily. So I'm coming from a military background as an officer in the U.S. Navy. And just excited to be here and have a bit of taste of civilian life for a little bit. And I'll move into the background then. As Emily said, I'll start with the background of the school, tell you a little bit about the student body as well as about some of the initiatives that might touch on some of your schools as well, whether or not that'll be research, or a lot of our population is also dual degree students. So I guess just starting off, go with the name. So it started off with as in 1936 for the School for Public Administration. However, after John F. Kennedy died, the school changed its name in honor of his memory. So this was to inspire careers of public service, as well as to also further leadership in the government. So now fast forward a little bit, and now we move to the last name change. At least this is the shorthand name change in our branding. About 15 years ago, they changed it, removed the government piece. And so this now is meant to reflect the broader mission of public service that the Kennedy School is looking to provide the community and the world. Our student population is diverse. It comes from a variety of different backgrounds, and then enters the workforce after graduation. A variety of backgrounds range from private sector to local, state, federal governments, both here in the U.S. as well as across the world. In addition to the NGOs and intergovernmental organizations as well. So all that's reflected within our student population as well as our programs. So we have a bit over 1,000 students, so about 1,100 students across 4 graduate degrees, as well as a limited number of PhD candidates. And they're focused on a range of issues ranging from domestic policy to foreign policy. And that also overlaps with the number of your schools as well. And then, as I mentioned before, we also have quite a few dual degree students from within other areas of the Harvard community, but also other universities. So I think that's a great aspect of the Kennedy School, with a lot of diverse experience in that way. And then we also have a large international student population, which I think is fairly unique in a lot of the public administration programs around the country. So it ranges from 29 to 56% international students. However, it's really all the programs except for the one MPP program are over 50% mix of international students coming to us from around 100 countries. And then within the US population, it is also a diverse mix. However, we do have still work to do as far as equity and addressing racial disparities. For instance, especially within the Latinx and Black community, where at the Kennedy School, we have 11% Latinx population in our domestic students and only 8% Black. That's substantially lower than the broader population of the United States. So, I think, that's one of the main issue, initiatives from our student government in looking at that. So I think Emily will touch a little bit about that later. And then just moving on to the next slide, I'd like to just share with you all some of the research centers that reside at the Harvard Kennedy School. And then a lot of these are actually university-wide, but they reside with us. So many of you may have had some experience with touch points in areas that overlap with your professions. But another thing I wanted to highlight here is that, and I think is, a great value added for us at the Kennedy School is, we also have a lot of like program fellows with each of these centers that are practitioners in their fields and, are interwoven into the classroom as well as the research. And then all these centers also host a wide variety of events. And we hope that you will have the opportunity to attend if you'd like to. And then also, if you have interest in any of these areas or looking to get involved with the Kennedy School or think that there might be some overlap with what interests you, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to talk to you more about it or connect you with the right point of contact. So great talking to you all. And now I'd like to turn it over to Emily to talk about our COVID response and student government priorities and initiatives.
Great. And can you all still hear me? I have no idea if I'm muted. Yes.
No, you're good.
Okay, great. So I know we've all talked about this a bit, but I would say the umbrella statement of how HKS has handled COVID so far is, there have been some really good faith efforts, but there's also been a huge breakdown of communication with the student body. And that's something that our student government, KSSG, Kennedy School Student Government, is trying to address now. But as you all were in the fall, we were completely online. We heard a lot from students about the challenges that posed, and particularly, of course, from international students who were dealing with totally disparate time zones and feelings of disconnection from the Harvard community. Later on in the semester, there was a hardship fund created where students could apply for up to $1,000 of funding, which was, for things like home office improvements, which was much appreciated. There was quite faulty communication around it about who would be eligible for that funding and when it would end, but we were able to push for a bit more clarity around that for students as the semester progressed. One concern we had while that was happening was that very extreme needs like housing insecurity were looped into the same bucket as, things like getting a standing desk. I'm actually standing at a Harvard-funded standing desk right now. But that was a big concern and something that we are continuing to try to address is, if we have students in our student body who are housing or food insecure, that should not just be there should not be an ad hoc process for addressing those concerns. Now HKS is instituting a hybrid model for the spring. The idea was mainly to get international students to be able to get visas to be on campus, to be able to get to Cambridge. They're going to be, the plan is for them to have a certain subset of their courses in person on campus. Those have not been fully instituted yet. And then for some students from some of the Kennedy School's programs to have access to study space on campus. But there's a meeting happening on Thursday with one of our deans about progress on that. It's been a bit of a black box so far in the semester. And the main reason, by the way, that I'm bringing that up is just, if any of that resonates with other schools' experiences, so that we can talk about it and share strategies for how to address these issues with the administration. And then for student government priorities, this is just one core set of what KSSG is focused on now. I really think top of mind for the student government right now is anti-racism and equity work. This has been a big push, not just from the student government, but also from an advocacy group. I know Abinaya is also involved with them as well, called the Equity Coalition, that has been pushing for many years for any amount of movement toward racial equity, both within our faculty and our student body. There has been some recent progress. The administration has agreed that our Dean Emlendorf, and his direct reports are going to be undergoing an anti-racism workshop led by a partner we're working with, Community Change, Inc. And we did start for the first time this semester a core course for public policy students on race and racism in the making of the US as a global power. That was a 1-week intensive course before the rest of the semester began. And there's a continuing push to make that a semester-long course instead. Other big concerns are pushing for a cluster hire of POC faculty members, especially Black faculty who would be tenured track. There's a really egregious racial disparity in tenured track faculty at HKS, where I believe 77% or so tenured professors are white. Oh, okay, Abinai is giving a thumbs up, so that is correct. And yeah, and other things. This actually segues into the next priority, need-based financial aid. Currently, HKS does not have need-based financial aid. It is fully merit-based. So of course, that lends itself to huge racial disparities within our student body. There's a big push to have at least some need-based financial aid. Our spring break was replaced with wellness days, which no students wanted. There was a push last semester, which are spread out isolated days throughout the semester instead of spring break. There was a push for that decision to be reversed. That was unsuccessful. So now we're just trying to make sure that those wellness days are actually reserved for wellness. Some other priorities too, but before we fully run out of time, just these last couple minutes, we would love to open the floor to other members of HGC and just hear, do any of these priorities or experiences particularly resonate with your own experiences or concerns that your student governments are prioritizing? And I can't see hands or anything.
Oh, I can see hands on the participant list. I'm happy to call on them for you. Anyone have any thoughts for Emily here? We have about 3 minutes.
Or questions, but yeah, I would love to hear more about synergies or things that are similar that you're dealing with, especially.
Yeah, I had a quick question actually on what you mentioned about need-based financial aid. So I'm just wondering, and I'm curious to hear what other people have to say as well, but is this something that only HKS does, like no need-based financial aid, or is this something we're seeing in other schools as well?
Emily?
Oh, no, was that seemed addressed to other students, to other schools, right?
Oh.
Non-HKS. Are there other hands? Sorry, because I'm in presentation mode, I can't see.
No, it's okay. Sorry, I thought maybe you knew the answer to that. Ruchiv, are you answering that question, or did you have a separate question?
No, I was actually going to answer Emily's original question.
Yeah.
I don't know about the need-based financial aid piece, so I can't really weigh in on that.
Go for it.
Saeed, do you have it looks like I know that you had a separate question.
Right. No, I was just curious about what the path forward is as far as hybrid modality or, online here at HGC, the Graduate School of Education. That's something that we're considering with respect to health officials and everything. And then secondly, as far as commencement, that's another thing we have a planning committee for. Do you guys have any plans set out for that for spring commencement?
Yeah, that's a good question. And other HKSers on the call, if you have more information than I do on that, please weigh in. As far as I know, commencement is being planned to be fully remote. That's the last I heard. And the hybrid model, I hope that we will have more to share after our conversation with Dean Isaacson tomorrow. Because yeah, last we heard plan was for many domestic students to have access to study space, for international students to be in classes in person, and none of that has really started rolling, which isn't to say it's a failure. I think the biggest priority was getting students to be able to get their visas more so, but yes, a good question. Hopefully I'll have more soon.
Got it. So it's still being ironed out. Appreciate it. It's very helpful. Thank you.
All right, and with that, it's 8:20, so we're gonna have to move on to our next agenda item, unfortunately. But Emily, thank you so much for the tour and the presentation.
Yeah, and Nick. Yes.
Oh, and Nick as well, yeah. Let's give credit where it's due. Okay, so just parliamentary procedure-wise, is there a motion to approve of the agenda? And if you could say your name, sorry, sometimes voices pop up and I don't see your screen.
This is Hugh. I move to approve.
Okay. Second.
I can second it.
All right, who's that?
Approved.
Sorry?
Approved.
Okay. All right, is there any dissent? All right, if there's no dissent, motion passes and the agenda is approved. All right, public commenting, Shinsia?
Yeah, really quickly, it doesn't really even, it's not a public comment, but we're gonna be doing a quick vote today about adding the executive members of HGC to the reps WhatsApp group. It was a vote that we actually started in the executive group, but wanted to get it voted on by the general council. So watch out for that towards the end of the meeting.
Yeah, and we'll have an opportunity for you to discuss it in the voting period as well. The next announcement is from me. So for those of you who have not known, I'm involved in the sport of rowing, and one of the reasons I'm on the Charles River is to train in rowing, and I have some opportunities to get involved with the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And one of the initiatives that I am actually starting, this is somewhat independent, is about some sexual violence that involves both harassment as well as assault on elite athletes. This is kind of the tail end of the wave that came after USA Gymnastics and Simone Biles with the case of Dr. Larry Nassar. And kind of being a member of HMS, one of the things that I want to do was not only bring together physicians and medical students together, but also public health students, public policy students, as well as law students, and really anyone else who's really interested. So currently, I just want to show you really quick. I do have a email list that, I do have an email list right here. And it's just a really short Google form. So I'm just gonna throw this into the chat. If you wanna sign up, please let me know. But the other thing that I want to show you really quick was that I've started to speak with a lot of different physicians and professors. So on the United States national team in the Boston area, we have some physical therapists as well as our team rowing physician. Right now we're speaking with the US Rowing headquarters, as well as a National Center for Safe Sports. We have 3 members of the Harvard Title IX committee also committed to this, as well as some MD-JDs from the bioethics program, as well as the law program, kind of interested in this initiative. So there's a lot of professors and ethicists and attorneys that are going to be gathered in on this initiative. And I think it's going to be really important to get student support to drive this forward. So it'd be really great if you are interested to sign up. And other than that, you feel free to take the link and share amongst your student groups that you think may be interested as well.
Thanks so much, Peter. Do we have any other public comments before we move on to updates and reports? Okay, hearing that we have none, let's move on. So I will give the update for the executive team. Yeah, so for Jojo and I, we're gonna have our semesterly meeting with President Baca and Provost Garber at the end of February. For that, we plan on presenting our data from the student experience survey that I've been compiling with our Chair of Information, Heidi. So thank you, Heidi, for working on that. If there's any other, I know we've also been planning, at least with the President Circle, of getting a meeting for President Bacow to attend either one of our General Council meetings, Exec Board, or the President Circle meetings. So it's something that we're working on now. The Board of Overseers Town Hall, those of you who have been interested in being involved with that, we actually heard back that the president of the Board of Overseers was not willing to come be a part of our town hall, which means that we can't really have a two-sided conversation in that other members of the Board of Overseers can't really answer for the whole board. Therefore, we're pushing this event towards later in the spring, and we might actually extend the invitation out to not just the Board of Overseers, but also the corporation as well, where students will come with issues and kind of speak to the members of the Board of Overseers of the corporation who are there to listen, more or less. So it's something that we've been working on for a while now, and we hope to continue that as an initiative for the spring. And then the student experience survey results, we've been doing analysis for that. We don't have time today to show it, but if anyone's interested in seeing some of those results, please just message me directly and we can do that. And then really exciting news is, so this week we were able to have our director of HUHS come. I know a lot of the reps here have had questions about like, how does Harvard finances work, in light of questions about tuition reimbursement and all those things. So we've been able to talk with the provost's office about getting someone from the administration. Currently, we're thinking about Thomas Hollister, who is the CFO of Harvard, to come and give a presentation. It's the finances 101 of Harvard, to talk a bit about how finances work at Harvard. Because I know a lot of questions, people had questions about that. So that will be at our next General Council meeting, likely February 17th, but we are still working on getting the speaker. So that's all my updates for now. We're just on time. Let's go on to finance and the student groups next. Oh, it looks like Emily had a question actually, sorry.
Just really quickly, did the head of the Board of Overseers give a reason for not being willing to do the town hall?
So we actually reached out to the president, Martin Chavez, I think, via one of the other Board of Overseers members, and she gave us the response. But I can go back to the email and check, but I think it was more so, it was not clearly stated as to the reason, but I can go back and check the email for that, but I'll get back to you on that.
All right, Brett, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Saeed first, Student Support Committee.
Sure. So, I'm considering basically assembling a student support committee that will help financially support students who are currently struggling due to the pandemic. This has come to my attention both in my leadership in the Harvard Graduate Council, as well as my leadership in the Harvard Graduate School of Education student government on the Student Issues and Advocacy Committee. The greatest issue people are struggling with is, getting some kind of hardship. They apply to their school's hardship fund, but it's exhausted, right? They can't get money from the federal government. If you're a U.S. Student, if you're over 17 but a dependent, you fall in that category of not being eligible for the federal stimulus. So you're basically, you have no financial support. So the idea is basically to have some kind of Harvard Graduate Council funded stimulus, but we're going to put a little creative take on it in how we plan to disperse this money, whether it be gift cards and so forth. So to keep it short, I plan to put out a feeler in the reps group chat to get as much support as I can. And once you guys indicate interest, I will want to create a separate group chat and to have you guys be a part of it. The greatest thing I need right now is broad support. If I can have at least one person from each graduate school, come on board, that would help a great deal. So that would be the first step. Second step would be to logistically plan it. And third plan would be to basically draft the proposal. and from there we will take it. So that's basically the student support committee idea. So you guys will be seeing that in the student reps group chat very soon. If not, feel free to reach out to me and we can start discussing it. But that's about it for me, and I'll send it off to Brett.
We've got 6 gold stars to start the spring semester. Tersing, Franklin, Dahi, Mark, Amna, Peter, good job. You've submitted your meal expense reimbursements. As a reminder, you are entitled to $20 to be utilized for a meal during the meeting, and you can justify it even if you got a grocery receipt, and you can upload that, and you'll get, even if you put it up there and it's $75, you'll still get reimbursed up to $20 of that. So just know that that is available. We had maybe about half of y'all that took advantage of it this last fall, and know that too, after it kind of accumulates, it ends up being, you can get reimbursed for up to maybe $200 for the whole semester. So just know that that is easy money for you to, we appreciate your time that you give to the group and so forth like that. So that's that. The other things on the agenda, there is like a current account balance. And then Peter, if you could stop sharing your screen and I'll share mine to walk through the budget. What we did then is we have to, basically what we did is we had to go to Marshall to talk about what types of expenses that we're going to have for the spring semester. And so our student life team, they came up with what events that we're going to host and so forth for the spring that would be virtual. And that was needed for us to be able to forecast what the budget was going to be. And it's going to require a vote then at the end of this meeting, because we've got some new line items. And so every time we've got a new line item, it requires council approval. And so everything else is pretty much the same from the fall, which was mostly discretionary funds for everything else. But then, Angela and Emery did a great job of putting together a full proposal of what types of cool things that we could do for our students that would be creative, that would be things of the nature of meal reimbursements, but then also gift cards and raffles and so forth. So that's kind of where the bulk of the expenditures come from. You'll see then what they've all planned out from January until May with what those would look like. And so essentially the vote at the end of this is going to be to just approve those new line items in the budget. We did already meet with Marshall just to make sure that he was good with it. So that's what we'll be asking for. That's all I've got then, unless there's any questions.
Thanks so much, Brett. Okay, seeing no questions, let's move on to operations and governance.
Himaja, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. My thing is very quick, and then Peter can take the rest of our 2 minutes. But yeah, if you guys could fill out the poll, that would be wonderful. We really are trying to find a time that works for most people. And we know that many people signed up for HGC with the expectation that meeting times would be from 7:30 to 9 on Mondays. So we just ask that you please fill out the poll so that we can make sure that most people can attend on that time, and if necessary, switch it. And Peter, do you want to take it from here?
Sure thing. So my update is also short as well. Just a reminder of where we left off regards to constitutional amendments. So this is now open for public discussion, which is required for a minimum of 2 weeks. I know it's well over that at this point because that was last semester, but we want to vote on these amendments by the next general council meeting. So we have approximately 2 weeks. As you can see, some members have already sort of added their comments. This is a non-editable but commentable form. So please be sure to comment on these items and be ready to vote on it at the next general council meeting, as we're going to be having pretty much no debate. This is your opportunity to discuss and debate, and you should come in prepared to get ready to vote on each of the line items. Okay. All right, next up is student life, Angela and Emery.
Hi, everyone. So as promised, me and Emery, we finished the end of year report and we'd like to share it with you. This year, we want everything to be transparent. So we'll be going to share resources with all the reps to make sure your initiatives are successful as well. So this year, we archived all the events and documents on the HGC drive. We get a lot of questions about marketing, how to host like virtual events. You can find all information on the HGC Google Drive. And this year, Emerine, she created the Student Life Committee. So for this committee, we're purely just trying to recruit volunteers to help with logistics. For example, last week we hosted the Harvard MIT Games Night, and there are around 80 people participated. So if the volunteers are ready, we are also we can also give the event to that volunteer so she or he can lead that event and also to be a host for that 2 hours. And if you are just needing more support for your initiatives, we hope that you can send us an email. You don't have to fill that form. We are able to support another cross-school initiative of March after NEMA's Mixers. And we hope that initiative can focus on health and wellness. Please send us an email if you have some initiatives related to health and wellness, and we would love to support that. Because we have a lot of collaborations in this council. So me and Emerine just want to make sure about like our goals for 2020. We have several goals. One is to continue to support inter-school collaborations, but I see most of the reps has taken a lead for this year. So we are going to step aside and we're going to support initiatives that encourage inter-school collaboration. So we are supporting NEMA's Mixers for the from February 17th to February 28th. Second, our goal is to make a connection with neighboring schools. So this year you will see a lot of Harvard MIT Games Night, Harvard Stanford Games Night. That is one of our main goals. And we also want to support international students coming back to campus in a safe way online. We do not support any in-person events. I know there has been some questions about if we're supporting or funding any in-person events. No, we're not. And the college, they're going to reach phase 3 in the next few weeks, and they're going to have some in-person programming soon. But for graduate students, we haven't heard any information like that. But if you have new information, please let us know and keep us updated, and we can be adaptive to change. The last point is that we want to support local business. So most of the gift cards for students that they are here in Cambridge right now, most of the gift cards will be from the COOP or from local businesses. Me and Emerine wants to support in the smallest way possible for those local bookstores or restaurants. For upcoming events, we have a big announcement. We are going to host a data match Harvard and MIT Valentine's Day. So we confirmed partnership with Data Match and Harvard and MIT Graduate Council to launch the largest virtual Valentine's Day ever. So between February 7th to February 20th, we'll help Harvard and MIT students find true love or build a new relationship online, friendship or relationship online. Together, we're able to fund 500 dates, so 500 meals, that's 500 friendships between the two schools. This is very, very exciting because we're trying to reaffirm and reconnect our friendship and relationship with the MIT Graduate Council and also with the Harvard College. I know we've worked so well with the reps for Grad Fest, so we are asking the reps to give the same effort for this event. This will be the largest event for Harvard Graduate Council. It is actually very exciting. Last year, the Harvard University Instagram posted the data match on their Instagram, and the university is also supporting. You know, this event is all about spreading love. We have around 31 universities. We're going to launch the same campaign, Valentine campaign on 7th. So we're all participating. So what we need is, we're going to send all the marketing materials on February 7th. So we need all the reps to please spread the word to let all your students know about this event. And the reimbursement is first come, first serve. So we hope all the reps can send the same information at the same time. For example, if one of the schools sent the information first, then their students will probably get the reimbursement, more reimbursement than other schools. So we want it to be fair. We'll be sending all the information on 7th. So another exciting news is NEMA's mixer. I know almost all the reps are working on this. It's ready. So their first mixer is on February 17th. Me and Emery is also supporting this event. We'll be sending all the marketing materials, the Valentine's Day and the mixers very soon. And I hope you can help spread the words. And that's all.
Great, thank you, Angela. Up next is advocacy with Abinaya and Cynthia.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a screen freeze. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, amazing, amazing. So I'll begin and then pass the baton on to Abinaya. But in advocacy and policy arena, we're hoping to accomplish a few things this semester and get a lot of initiatives started. So one of the things we're doing is reaching out to different organizations amongst the schools to identify needs of student organizations across the campuses. And we would really appreciate kind of the reps' help in that. We might reach out to get help in kind of identifying and finding all these organizations and identifying as many needs and concerns as possible. We've also been working with the Crimson to support it in its mission of kind of getting students' opinions out there and responding to different policies and how they affect students. And Abinaya can also describe some of the things we've been chatting about.
Yeah, for sure. So
and shout out to our Crimson reporter, Isabella, who's here today.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, so one thing that MIT has done in the past that I've been in conversations with and will be presenting to the External Advocacy Committee soon is the possibility of collaborating with them on a spring policy agenda. They have hosted State House visits, virtual State House visits in the past. And so I'm looking to see if there are opportunities for us to participate with them this spring and bring our collective voices to the State House on policy issues that are of interest to the students. So that's one advocacy initiative that we're exploring. And then the other is to schedule short meetings with the presidents and reps to identify advocacy needs. Emily, I appreciate you trying to make the space today to have that group discussion about what those shared priorities are. Over the fall, I think it became clear that a lot of advocacy issues, it ends up being very school specific in terms of decision making about COVID and things like that. So we're really looking to see if there are any shared priorities across schools that we can support you all in advocacy initiatives, either learning from one another on how things have worked at your school, or if there are any policies or advocacy points that we can actually push at a collective level. So we're really going to be trying to schedule some short meetings with the presidents and reps to get a read on what's going on your campus and how we can best support you.
All right, and with that, let's move on to information. Heidi and Tara.
Hey everyone, so just really briefly, we just recently decided to create a bi-monthly newsletter. So the newsletter that we've been sending out periodically, at least once a month, will be happening at least twice a month. So with that, we are asking that all reps help us populate the information that goes out in the newsletter by submitting events prior to the date in which the events or the newsletter goes out. I've gone ahead and posted a form which you can use to go ahead and submit your events that are happening at your respective school, or even if it's related to an organization that you may be affiliated with, as long as it's related to Harvard and Harvard community. I think it's generally suitable for listing in the newsletter. In addition to that, given that the newsletters have been going out and that they will continue going out, I'm asking that all the reps be sure to forward all of those newsletters to your respective schools. I know that that was something, at least at the GSD, that was happening last spring. And I don't think it has been consistently happening so far. So yeah, just a reminder to please forward that information to your student email feed. And then, and then one last update regarding the alumni Harvard email access. So I had a meeting with IT in December, and they've agreed to go ahead and extend access to all alumni, email access to all alumni, at least for the next year, just given the COVID situation. And if it might help facilitate, your accessibility to maybe additional opportunities beyond Harvard. So they're willing to support that. Yeah, so that's all I've got for now. And, feel free to hit me up if you have any questions. Thanks so much.
Oh, and then I think Tara is not here right now because of the time difference. But I know that she is working with, I think, Himija and some other reps maybe to do this One Harvard podcast. So if anyone's interested in like being featured on that or any like social media campaigns, please reach out to Tara and we can get you in there. I know I'll be potentially doing a podcast for like the med school, so that would be interesting.
All right, and so with that, we're going to move on to the action items. So just in terms of parliamentary procedure, we're going to have a motion made first and have it seconded. Then we can open up the discussion, and then we'll move forward with voting. All right, so the first motion, who'd like to make it?
Maybe I should like explain it a little bit. I'll make the motion also. But basically, it was in our executive group, we've had a lot of conversations regarding like whether executive members should be a part of these more, I guess, groups that's newly created groups, right? Because last year we didn't have these virtual or social media ways of communication, whether our exec members should be part of those groups that are created for specifically the representatives, so you all. And one idea suggested by one of our exec members was to actually have the vote come down to the reps, because we are entering your space and we want to be cognizant and respectful of entering that space. Allowing our executive members to post in the reps WhatsApp group, as well as send you links and have communications there, but we don't want to crowd out the communication that's already there. So that's what the vote is on, essentially, whether you all would be okay with the 12 members of the executive council being added to the WhatsApp group and continuing and starting conversations there.
All right, is there a second for this motion?
I can second it. Apurve.
All right, and we can open this up for discussion. All right, is there any discussion points on this? And I'll allot 4 minutes for discussion on this motion.
I'm just in support. That's all.
Same here.
What kind of vote are we gonna do, Peter?
Yeah, so I'll explain that.
Sorry about all the like Senate-esque procedures. We adopted Robert's rules last year, so we have to do everything by like aye or a nay.
Yeah, so just so people are aware, in terms of the voting, technically all vote is made publicly, similar to Congress when they say representative of block like Arkansas, please vote aye or nay. We're not going to go voice votes line by line because that's incredibly time consuming, but to take advantage of the technology, we will do a participant list where you can check off the green yes or the red no button. If you wish to make this anonymous, you can request that, or you can also do a motion to white ballot, which is either a motion to dissent, and if there's no dissent, we can automatically assume that it is a unanimous vote. All right, so you have multiple options. Okay, but if there's no further discussion, then we're going to move forward with voting, unless someone has any other requests to vote in a different method. All right, if not, then we'll move forward with voting. could one member of each school click on the participant button on your Zoom, and you're gonna see at the bottom, there's a green yes and red no button. Please cast your votes. And if you can't see it, please let me know.
Hi, Peter. This is Rutvij here. I don't see the button.
You don't? Okay. I'm just going to share my whole desktop. Do you see this? There should be a green yes, red, no when you click participant up here.
Yeah, so I am clicking participants, but
Rutvij, it's not in the participant. So you will see reactions button on the basically the lower part of the screen that you are, where you have the leave button as well.
yes. Okay, I see it now. I see
It
it
might
now.
be a Mac
Thank you.
versus window thing.
Yeah. I see it now. Thank you.
Okay. So I see 2 votes cast, 3 votes cast. All right. And Brett, sorry, you're an exec member, so you actually can't vote. Could you revoke your vote, please? All right, so guys, I still only have 4 votes. We will have to close voting in a couple minutes. So please cast your votes. Otherwise, I will have to record it as an abstention.
Hey, Peter, I've been using the reaction, and it looks like it's ephemeral. So it shows for 10 seconds, and it goes away.
Mark, I'm pretty sure I saw yours.
Okay, well, glad I'm one of 4.
Yeah, Peter, maybe it has to do with the version of Zoom. So do you just want to do it by voice?
Or we can do it like we did in the exec meeting. We can do it by chat. I think that might be easier.
Okay,
So if every rep wants to type out aye or nay, please submit it into the chat instead. Yeah, sorry, Taylor. We're not going to go with the raise hands because then I can't tell who is abstaining versus who is opposing. Unless I call it out separately. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, all right. I have 9 votes in favor, 0 abstentions, so the motion passes. Okay. Sorry, I'm just screenshotting this for records. Apologies on the noise. 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstention. Motion passes. All right. Next action item to vote on is the approval of the spring budget. Is there a maker of the motion?
I can make the motion. HPS.
Is there a second?
Second, Mark from GSAS.
All right. We'll open it up for discussion. Are there any discussion points on the spring budget items? All right, if there is no other discussion points, we are going to move forward with voting. Please type in the chat aye to vote in favor, nay to vote opposed, and abstain to abstain from voting. All right, so we have 9 total votes to pass the spring budget in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 abstention. So the motion passes. Do we have any announcements from the general counsel?
I'll make a quick announcement. But this is like pretty early. We're just starting the spring semester. But if everyone has looked at our list of meetings for the semester, it might be clear from there that our second meeting in April is actually going to be our spring elections. So I just wanted people to be aware. I know it's early still, but our spring elections is coming up, which means the president and vice president roles, as well as all the chair roles, are up for election. Well, depending on whether we suspend that amendment in the Constitution, reps, at least currently, have presidents for running for any of these roles. So if you're a rep or alternate rep, or actually not an alternate rep, or just someone of the general public, if no reps run, then please look into these roles, and if you want to be more involved with HGC in the upcoming years. Just wanted to make that announcement.
All right, are there any other announcements from the general counsel?
Yeah, just one quick note. I'm putting in the poll link again. Please fill it out. We have a deadline of Friday. We really want to make sure that everyone fills out the poll by then so that we can make our meeting time and move forward with it and let everyone know so they can have it on their schedules. So please fill it out. And yes, the deadline is Friday, and I'll send out a reminder as well.
Yeah, and it's especially important. The reason we can't move this meeting and the next meeting is because we've already gotten speakers and we've told them the date for that. But we're basically holding off on speakers and presentations until we can set a date. So it's really important for us to be able to know what is the best date for everyone.
Yep.
Oh, and just as a quick note, this poll is for the reps, not the exec board members. You're all set.
And then I'm going to just reiterate my announcement from the committee report. Please take time to comment on the constitutional amendments. I know that a lot of you had, opinions on certain items. And by next meeting, because we won't be having any discussion for the sake of time, and we'll be moving straight into voting. These are going to be changes that will permanently affect the way that we operate HGC. So it does affect everybody in this organization. Just also be mindful of the fact that this is primarily our fall semester amendment. So we do have a full set of spring semester amendments as well that we will be voting to be implemented in the next academic year. So the Constitutional Committee will work hard on that. But if you have any questions about the current constitutional amendments, please let me know, and please voice your opinions and thoughts on it. All right, any other announcements? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. This is Hugh.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Apul HPS.
Is there any dissent to adjournment? All right, hearing none, HGC General Council is adjourned at 8:58 p.m. And the next meeting will be hosted by Himajo.
I can look really fast and I'll send a WhatsApp message.
And then remember how we used to have like the 15 minutes before the meeting for social time? Because John came in today, we're doing our social time at the end. It's a new, trial for us. So if anyone wants to stay behind and hang out with us, please do so. But otherwise, it was great seeing everyone, and have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.